Whole premise of this talk, right, is around branding and price perception. In my day job, and I'll give a little bit of an intro to me, so I'm involved in quite a few different things. My day job is running a small creative agency. We're based in Lincoln. Pretty much all of the work that I do is around helping people charge more for doing the same thing in their business. The kind of evolution of this talk is it takes elements of one that I've done before, which is why I was asking who has, and it's nice when I go somewhere and people haven't heard me speak before because they don't immediately throw things at me. So it takes elements of that and it kind of adds a whole new layer on it, which came from an idea that I had just while I was driving, which is that wine costs more in restaurants. And I think that is like a crazy thing that we all can kind of appreciate and understand, that if you go into a supermarket and buy a bottle of wine, it's going to cost you way less than it would in a restaurant. So it's kind of taking another layer and thinking about why is that the case and how can we apply that to our businesses? And we can, and there are different ways to. So this will give you, it's not going to be a step-by-step roadmap of, look, for your specific business, you need to go away and do X, Y, and Z, right? There will be a little bit of that in and some things that you can definitely take away. But this is more a kind of experimental demonstration of, you can apply these things and you can all see that branding impacts price perception. And then we can have a talk about why wine costs more in restaurants, and then go away from this, hopefully with the confidence to maybe review your prices in your own business, feel confident charging more. Because I'll start here. Maybe I'll start here if this worked. That was like, that really let me down. I'll start here. Who would rather charge less, like, for their products or services? If we can just start there with a hand up, like who actively wants to charge less? Exactly, right. Sometimes I'll get somebody saying, I do, and then we'll have a conversation about why they're wrong. If you just pop that in there, Ollie. So, what I'm here to do today, while Ollie very kindly fixes the clicker, is explore how branding impacts price perception, like I've said. So the way that something looks and feels, and we'll talk a little bit about what branding is, how that truly does affect what people are willing to pay for the same thing. We'll look at the restaurant effect, as I've kind of termed it, which is all about wine costing more in restaurants, but also, general stuff costing more depending on where it's placed. Then we'll look at your brand touch points and create a bit of a roadmap for improving your brand and hopefully give you the confidence to raise your prices. So, and the two things that I want you really to take away from this are understanding why customers are willing to pay more for the same product or service in different situations. And then also figure out how through that you can make your business seem more premium to justify higher prices. And I don't mean that you have to make your business seem like luxury, but I think there's a conversation that we will all have together, which is around just by looking at how something looks and feels, we can, as a group, and we will do this together, we can kind of put a weight to how credible, trustworthy, premium is a certain thing based on how it looks and feels, and also we'll have a conversation around how that affects price. So a really quick kind of intro to me and what I do. So my day job is I run a creative agency. So we generally help businesses earn money, like I've said, through looking, or essentially looking more credible. So we work with businesses typically, and again, this is typically between sort of 500k and 10 mil. So SMEs, smaller SMEs really, although we do have some, massive clients. This was 3 of us 2 years ago, and we've all kind of aged worse. So this is why we don't have another photo of the other 2 people, because they look worse than we do. Second business, a shop in Lincoln called the Lincoln Emporium, which is an experiential retail shop based at the top of Steep Hill. Out of the people who hadn't seen me before, had anyone heard of the shop? Cool. Awesome. So we make and sell Lincoln Imps. We have 7 staff. And the shop inside looks like this. Looks like a green one right at the top of Steep Hill. We make and sell all the imps like ourselves. They're all made just above the shop. We have like some kind of interactive displays on the walls and stuff like that. So it's great, like for kids, great for visitors, and just a bit more of an experience than just buying a thing. Physics, which is the kind of third pillar of what I'm involved with on a kind of weekly basis, which is like a patented new way to carbonate drinks. So people have asked me over the last half an hour, is this wine? I wish it was. It's Diet Coke and it tastes awful, right? One of the main reasons this tastes awful is I didn't get it out of a bottle, it just came straight out of the draft tap. Now, one of the key reasons why these draft drinks like are kind of hit and miss, sometimes they're all right, sometimes they're not, is the level of carbonation in them. Yeah, there's a bit to do with the syrup, a little bit to do with the water, but predominantly that's easily controllable, is the carbonation, which like produces the acid, which makes the drink taste a certain way. So we have created an alpha unit which has done this. So we created a proof of concept unit which has a much better carbonation level, way more consistent in a kind of miniature format. We've now just created this, which does look nicer with the shell on, but the guys are working on it all the time, so it's never on. But this machine is a really good working prototype that kind of shows that our tech works, and we're talking with kind of major drinks players at the moment to work out, can we either sell it to them or can we put this in their technology. So that's my kind of three core things. I'm also involved in a couple of other startup, mobile phone game, AI payment chasing tool, and I do a lot of teaching like in both unis and council programs, so I'm super busy. The kind of nutshell of why I think this is all relevant is everything we're trying to do to look like credible, to look professional, and also to be able to charge a high amount of cash for whatever that thing is, because like we said at the start, none of us really want to actively be charging less for our products or services, because when you do that, you always get stuck into the kind of doing the do and working in the business rather than on it. And if you can carve out a little bit of time by charging more to kind of give you a bit of relief in terms of financial pressures, put more cash in the bank, it's a much, much, much better place for you to grow your business from rather than always to be chasing cash. So that's why charging more is important. So we're going to start just by looking at branding in general. So, Ollie, because you're here and I know you, I'll pick on you first. What's branding?
So, there's the positioning of like brands, then messaging. I'll say that, I think it's branding.
Yep.
And then there's a visual side as well. But I think branding is about the experience, story, and positioning.
Yeah, I think it's a good kind of overview. Anybody want to add anything else onto that?
It's your gut feeling.
About a business or a product or a thing.
About your business.
Yeah, probably based on most of the stuff that Ollie said. Yeah, everyone kind of agree with that in a nutshell. Yeah, I do. So branding, I think, is the process of creating a strong, like, positive perception of your business, right? So it's that gut feeling about something, and I think that's what we kind of need to think about harnessing in our own businesses so that we can try to leverage higher prices, right? So it's made up of a lot of things. We'll go into those later on, but that gut feeling about something is what branding is. So that overall impression that you want customers to have, right? So the things that you'd probably want to be thinking about to kind of apply this is, like, do you want to look like credible and trustworthy? Do you want to look like fast? Do you want to look unique or dynamic or agile? Do you want to look kind of big and clunky but reputable and solid? Like, all of those kind of ideas are things that customers potentially in your market will be looking for, so it's making sure that your business does look right for them. Marketing then? Someone I've not heard from, take a stab. And again, I know we all kind of know what marketing is, but let's like define it. Stu?
Promotion of your business.
Yep.
Again, through various means, visual, written content, all sorts.
Cool. Yeah, anything from the back?
Targeting the people that are going to come to you for a service.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you want your customers to be?
Yeah. Yeah, so like we kind of said in a nutshell really, but general promotion of your business to attract new customers, again, that could be, like Stu said, you know, through anything, like through social, could be through emails, could be through your website, could be through video, could be whatever, right? And how these work together is, I think you need to know who you are, which is the process of going through branding before you can effectively like market your business better to your potential customer. So we need to think about that, okay? We also need to understand that if you haven't done this foundation of thinking about kind of who you are and what message you want to get across, I think who was in Emma's workshop before? Okay, so yeah, Emma is really, really, really good. And I've worked with her like on different projects before and cross-referred to Emma. But I think Emma is really, really good if you are struggling of like, you know, who the hell are you and why would people buy from you and your business and who are your customers and who's your audience? Like Emma is a great first person to go and speak to and help that kind of discovery process. But you really need to go through that because if you don't know who you're supposed to be targeting and why they would buy from you, it's really, really difficult to figure out, you know, what impression do you need to leave, okay? And I think this also works in terms of like life as well, right? So it makes sense in a kind of business context because, you know, if you don't know who you are, it's difficult to go around like having sales conversations, it's hard to make marketing material, it's hard to know what to put on your website or what social content to create, right? But I think this is also like a huge parallel, you know, with life as well. Is like if you don't know who you are as a person, it's difficult to find like, you know, a partner, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, right? And I think it kind of applies because if you don't know who you are, you can't get that messaging right and you don't know what's kind of driving you and where you're going. And again, it translates directly back and forth between business and personal life. Like you need to know who you are and where you're going or else you're going to struggle to figure out who you need to bring along with you for that ride, okay? Right, so demonstrating branding. So this is from like the kind of last iteration, the early versions of this where we specifically just talked about price perception. So water, I think, is the best like medium for describing and explaining branding and the power of it, right? So Ollie has like a Nestle Pure Life bottle here, right? Where did you get that from?
Tom gave it to me.
Right, that is a really shit answer. So Ollie bought that from the shop this morning, right? You could have just lied, man. So Ollie bought that on his way in this morning. Upon buying it from Tesco Express, Ollie walked in and you were confronted with loads of different bottles, weren't you, Ollie? And Ollie decided to buy that one. Now, that's super interesting, right? Now, I do think it is super interesting, though, because supermarkets are really brutal places, and we'll kind of touch back to supermarkets quite a lot, because I think they're just a good way of kind of explaining a lot of, like, price perception and business as a whole. So, supermarkets will not put something on a shelf if it's not going to sell, right? Like, the space in there is super, super competitive. Like, I don't know if, again, I'm surrounded by business owners all the time, but I know loads of people who have tried to get products into supermarkets and really, really struggled. And if they have got them there, they've kind of been screwed anyway. It's like brutal retail environments, and they do not place something on the shelf if it doesn't sell. So whether that's a half fridge next to the meal deals that has this Nestle water, it has like Tesco's own water, and it has Evian in it, it has like Highland Spring, it has, you know, Voss water. There are loads of different water brands. I'm not a water connoisseur, to be honest. My favourite water is, at the minute, tap. But again, that's kind of the point, is it's all pretty much the same thing. And does anybody here, and again, we'll kind of call you out for being a little weird if the answer is yes, so maybe just keep your head down, but anybody like genuinely think they could blind taste test water from water bottles and like actually figure it out? Like, I don't think so, right? And I think you've got a face on like you could do it.
Where we live, we have a borehole, so we don't have tap water.
Right.
When I go to a cafe and order coffee with the tap water,
Yeah.
It tastes like I'm drinking someone's swimming pool.
Right. Okay.
You get used to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I can imagine
Yeah.
that someone would.
Yeah.
So I can I used
Yeah.
to not be able to tell the difference
Yeah.
between tap water and bottled water, but now
Yeah.
I can't drink tap water.
But between bottled waters in general, you'd struggle, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's the point as well. So, like, why is there not just, if we're going in Tesco's, why is there not just a Tesco's own bottle in the fridge? And also, why? Because these are like in shops, right? But then there'll be like a much bigger bottle next to it that's like roughly the same price. But then why are people getting that versus the slightly bigger bottle that's like a better value? Like, why are we all not going in and then looking specifically at like the value per 100 millilitres or whatever it is and just getting like the biggest, like best one for the cash? I think that's super interesting. If we wanted a better deal anyway, wouldn't be in the fridges, it would be like at the back of the store where you can get like a 5 litre bottle like for cheaper than you can get that. So like 10 times the amount for half the price. I think that's crazy. So I think the natural step in this is why, two things. Why are some bottles in the fridge more expensive than others? And we'll do like a little bit of a demo together here. A bit clunky because it's going to be on the screen and I'm dragging photos around rather than, you know, showing you in person. So why are we paying more for some over others? And then secondly, the kind of follow-on conversation of that is about the value. Like, customers know, we know when we're in that fridge, like deep down somewhere we could get a better deal if we went to the back of the shop. So why are we not going? Like, why do we not care specifically about getting the cheapest thing? And it can't just be convenience, because again, you would be looking at the biggest, cheapest one in the fridge rather than that one, which obviously you bought on the way in. Cheers for that. So let's talk about it. Right, I do this as my kind of experiment. So perceptual maps in marketing are like great, but also super varied. So perceptual maps in general, we have a ghost. That's all right. You're welcome anytime. No, just come in anytime. So yeah, this is Toby, who's my twin brother, but he got like the good genes. And I struggle to fit in my jeans. Okay, so perceptual maps are, well, unique. Like, you can put anything you want on these axes and they're just a really good way to compare. Essentially, like, price is typically on there and maybe features or something like that. And again, we can place all of these bottles like on this. So again, it's going to be a little clunky. Can I just have like 4 volunteers, or can I pick on 4 people? Or... Thanks, Ollie. 1. Thanks, Sharon. 2. Yeah, 3. And yeah, thank you. 4. Brilliant. Well volunteered. So, Ollie, right, this one here, you've got that one, right? So we've got high price up here, low price down there, like high quality, which can be like taste and cleanliness or whatever you kind of expect quality to be in a, you know, a subjective way. Where are we sticking this? Okay. Right, let's say like down there somewhere, and again, cool. San Pellegrino.
Top right.
Okay, top right. I will pause there just to see if anyone wants to have an argument with you at all. Anybody like super disagreeing so far? Like, anyone think this should be flipped? No, and again, it's crazy because like we can't taste it. So, okay, this one, Sharon.
I was going to say in the bin, but low price, low quality, I'd say.
Okay. What about in relation to that one that I just touched by accident? Like
Oh, the first one.
this one here.
I'd probably say a step up because it's got branding.
Yeah, in terms of price and quality, or
Yes,
okay,
marginally.
cool. So like that.
Yeah.
Everybody like remotely happy. Cool. And then finally you have Voss, which just for reference, and I know we can't see it, comes in a glass bottle. So we can get a ooh.
High price and yeah, I'm assuming if it's in a glass bottle and exceptionally high quality of that water.
So in terms of this San Pellegrino, are we saying higher?
Yeah.
Is it still sparkling? Does that make sense?
Let's say it's still sparkling. I don't know. I just work here.
I mean, I do like the San Pellegrino gives that kind of Italian vibe, kind of thinking
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I think Voss is like Swedish or something. I could have just made that up, but
Sort of thing, isn't it?
yeah. Give us an answer then. Is it higher price than San Pellegrino or not?
Yes.
Cool. Is it higher quality than San Pellegrino or not?
I think it would I think it was, so yeah.
Okay. Anybody, like, there is a right answer that I will tell you for this. Anybody want to take?
I think the sample
Here we go.
is the highest mineral content for any bottled water on the market. So I think quality is a little bit better than Voss.
Right. You're going to cause World War III.
In
So.
the restaurant, you would get San Pellegrino, you wouldn't get Voss. You own a high-end restaurant.
Cool. So,
And I drink San Pellegrino, that's what I time.
yeah. Anybody want to disagree? Shall we flip them? Anybody care? Nobody gives a shit anymore, so cool. We'll move on. It doesn't matter is the answer, right? We all like kind of agree together then, regardless of where you put these bottom left ones are like worse quality, worse price, like lower price than the top right ones. We'll just say that as a general, right? But then how do we know? It's easier when the bottles are here, right? Because when I've done this before, I'll take the bottles, and to be honest, like every time I do it, if I buy a bottle of water, I'll buy it like obviously to bring to this, but I'm sick of spending like 30 quid a year on water because I keep drinking it and then binning it thinking I'm not going to need it again. And then someone asks, oh, could you do a talk on brand price perception? I go, fucking hell, I'm going to have to buy another one. We don't all have friends in high places, Ollie. Yeah, so what is like amazing with this is it's logical. So if we went into a shop and like, let's say these were £2 in Tesco Express or Spar or wherever, and these were like £1, you'd be like, okay, cool. And then you'd decide which one you're going to get, right? But when I bring these in person, normally I drink the water anyway and then just fill it up out the tap. So it could be your Manky tap water from, the well down the road or wherever. It could be, filtered water from an office filter, or it could be, you don't know what's in it. But this applies to your businesses too, right? There's not many industries or products, and there are some, and if you've got one, just keep your mouth shut or we'll go on a tangent basically, but there aren't many industries or products or services that you can like really try before you buy. So can I just ask, what do you do?
I'm a landscape architect.
Cool, right? So in terms of what, like residential stuff, what like?
Commercial.
Okay. So does that mean like, like exterior
All
stuff?
exterior around the building. So,
Okay.
For example, the med school,
Okay.
when they built the building of the med school, we were the landscape architects, and we do all the exterior work. So we don't physically do it, we design it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's say, I had a building and then I wanted your services because obviously we're not just going to plonk a building down. We want it to look nice and kind of fit into the environment, right? I can't really like try that before you buy because you're not going to go away and design it all for free.
No.
Right? You might have a conversation with me where you're like, oh, maybe these ideas and here's a bit of inspiration, but you're not going to like make a mock-up of what that looks like, put it in some 3D software or however you work and then show me it. And I go, actually, I don't really like that, so I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to go and ask somebody else to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's the same like with these waters. Like you don't know what, let's say I hated your work, right? Hypothetically, because it's easy to go down that direction. Let's say it was the equivalent of having your awful tap water inside one of these bottles. You open it and it kind of stinks and you're like, I don't really like that, but you bought it now. And I think with all of our businesses, the point of this is the customer doesn't know. The customer, like us in this situation, have to make a guess about the quality, right, of your business. You have to guess the quality of these waters. It's kind of inferred by that branding and the overall perception of it. We don't know what the water's like. We've not tasted it yet, but yet we've bought one and we're trusting that it tastes right. So I think the kind of core message to get is if your business looks and feels like a high quality, credible business, people are willing and expect to pay more for it. And again, we've all just kind of shown that now, right? This one with no label on it, we've put it at the bottom. This could be the nicest water out of all of them. We just don't know, right? And again, we're just taking a kind of slim view here on it, right? So let's move on. So that's why kind of price perception matters and what we've shown, right? So the overall look and feel of something, that overall impression, that brand affects the quality and price perceptions. But the overall impression isn't formed by the actual quality of those products and services. So if we look more credible, more trustworthy, people will naturally expect that they're going to have to pay more for your thing, whatever your thing is. Right, restaurant effect. I'll just take a dramatic pause. So this is about, that's fine, it sounded good quality water, so. Cool. Cool. Hear that, Ollie? Yeah?
Because I am also the
No.
one who walks to the back of the shop and buys the big bottle of water.
There we go. They live among us. So we've had a discussion around like the way something's packaged, the way it looks and feels affects price perception, right? So now, with that conversation, we had to kind of almost guess the quality of that product and service, but taking it another step, as customers, to kind of like add a nail in the coffin really is why I added this bit on. But as customers, even when we know that that thing we're buying is exactly the same, sometimes we're willing to pay more for it just based on how it's presented, which again goes into the overall impression. So let's talk about it, because I think that's like a super important step. And to be completely honest, this isn't fully formulated in my head yet. So I know what I'm trying to say. I think I'll make the point, but I'm sure, you know, with time, there will be more follow-on thoughts, and maybe there'll be a third layer to this. I don't know. But for right now, I'll take you through what I'm thinking. So, wine, right? Let's say we're in a restaurant. Hypothetically, just somebody shout a number at how much is a bottle of wine? I don't know, it's like how long's a piece of string, but 25 quid, like average, let's say like low to medium-ish end restaurant, 25 quid, you'll get a bottle of wine, right? So I went to, it's not a flex, it nearly killed me, I didn't have the money at the time. I was a student, I took my now wife to the Shangri-La at the Shard, and I bought a bottle of wine there, and the cheapest wine was like £86, and you had to spend 100 quid to get the table. So then I was like, oh shit. So then I ordered sushi, but then that was only like £15. So then I needed to order something else to get over the 100 quid mark, and I didn't really have it. But anyway, it all worked out. One of us is really happy in the relationship, and it's me. The other one is really tired because we just had a baby. But that same bottle of wine that was at the Shard, like, shouldn't have done it, but I looked online, as you do, like, oh, how much is that? And it's like £23, like in a supermarket or online. But it's the same thing. And that's like the killer way, like, oh, because if it was slightly different or you didn't know what it was, it's like the same thing. And as a customer, you feel a bit like, okay, interesting. But I was willing to pay it there, right? The other story, just if Toby was in here, right? Yeah, obviously we have it at the supermarkets. Yeah, most of these photos I just robbed them from Google, to be honest, even though we have like 3 image libraries. It's just easier, isn't it? Yeah, in supermarkets it's way cheaper. The other one, like another example, is like Coke. So I don't mean this kind of crappy Coke, because like I said, it came from the fountain gun. It tastes genuinely like chemicals. I don't know what's wrong with it. But let's say like there was a bar on the left, like bougie bar, they have fruit, so they're doing cocktails, so I don't know. Ollie, I'm not picking on you again, but how much is that Coke on the left? Like put an actual value on it. £8. Bloody hell, Ollie.
I don't know.
Not £8, it could be.
Order drinks.
It could be. Anyone else?
I went to a restaurant the other day and ordered one. It was £3.80, and that was just like a local pub.
Right, okay. £3.80. Are we happy with that? I don't have a right answer. I just need like a unanimous, like, yeah, maybe sounds okay, about right. Yeah, so let's say £4. Right. This Coke on the right, let's say we were sat there on a beach, and you know, like sometimes when you're away and like there'll be some random guy walking around with like a bucket of drinks or whatever, and it'll be like, oh, do you want a Coke? And you're like, nah, not really. But like, imagine we did. How much do you think it would cost then? again, like, sorry, a pound?
Yes.
Yeah, you were there, you saw him too, right? Okay, let's say it's a pound. It's the same thing again, but let's say we're on the beach and we've bought it for a pound. You know, you said you were in a restaurant. Let's say, hypothetically, Stu's bought one off some guy on a beach for a pound, right? You went into a restaurant and paid £3.80 for it. Like, at no point were you standing up like, what the hell? Like, I saw this for £1, right? And I think that is huge because we know it's the same thing, and we all know as customers this very same thing, like, yeah, one's in a can, one whatever, it's the same thing inside, right? So it's how it's presented and it's where it is that as customers we'd still be happy to pay the price on both. If the guy on the beach said it's £6 for the Coke, you'd probably say, it's all right, actually, we'll just nip to the shop or the hotel bar. If same with a restaurant, maybe if they said it was 30 quid, obviously you wouldn't buy it. But there's like a strong range there that as customers we'd still be happy to buy, even though we know it's the same thing. So like, what does this show? And like I've said, it's not fully formed in my head at the moment, it's still going. What I think it shows and how I want to apply it to our businesses is like, so we know customers are willing to pay more for the exact same thing when it's framed correctly, and you know, vice versa, they'll be willing to pay less for the same thing in some situations. But I think the key crux of this and how it applies to branding is we accept that businesses with higher overheads, like maybe bigger businesses, but I think it's the fact that they have higher overheads that we understand as a customer we need to pay them more money to get that thing, right? So obviously, like, restaurants need 60, 70, 80% margins on the stuff that they're selling, depending on the restaurant. Supermarkets work off like, you know, small percents because they're shifting huge volume. So they need less of a margin. They have less proportionate overheads with the thing that they're selling. And I think it's the same with businesses too. Like, if, again, let's say we are buying, I don't know, tote bags, right? So one of these bags, we're at a craft fair, for instance, and there's somebody selling tote bags, you might pay a £5 for it, but let's say like, you know, like Hermes or whatever, selling bags, like literally tote bags for like thousands of pounds, because those businesses, yeah, it's luxury, so it doesn't fall straight away, but also those businesses have way higher overheads and need to charge way more than, you know, the person with the craft store. So how can we look bigger? And again, this bigger here does mean overheads. It could also mean like size. It's like, how can you look more established? So if you are looking more established and kind of more credible as a business, people assume you have more overheads, right? Because you're paying for things, maybe you're paying for an office, maybe you're paying for an accountant, maybe you're paying for more software licenses. You have more costs if you are like a bigger business, right? So how can you look bigger? The first one is like brand assets. And again, this is like the tangible stuff. So, you know, if you have a crappy old logo, get a new one. And I know that's like the foundation of it. I don't want to get stuck in the weeds with the stuff that you need, but I will give you a broad kind of overview. But the stuff that you are presenting to clients needs to look good and needs to look credible. Like, you know, to go back to the water example from earlier. Another quick win is like imagery. So if you have a website or a brochure or a flyer, like replace, you know, the stock images, which anybody can have, whether they've just started out or they've been going 20 years, right? Anybody can have just stock imagery. Like, you know, I nicked some stuff from Google, so like it's easy to get some photos, but to have like custom images, it costs more. So like clearly you've spent out more cash. Maybe you're a bigger team because of it. Maybe you have someone looking after your marketing. Again, that costs money. So people, like, the perception of your business is, look, you're spending more, you have higher overheads. Branded collateral, which is like, you know, invoices, proposals, all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, service-based businesses, clients love documentation. Product businesses, you know, maybe less documentation, but maybe a more kind of web-first presence. And like I said, in terms of content, like, you know, if you have a good coordinated marketing strategy where everything you're putting out from, you know, say blogs on your site to videos that you're posting on social media all look really good and are sending the right messages, again, that stuff costs money or time. So either you have a bigger team or you're shelling out cash for it. So therefore your overheads were higher, right? So, and this stuff doesn't need to cost an absolute fortune. It can, it doesn't need to. It depends, like horses for courses. Speak to different people, kind of do a self-audit first of, what you actually need. In terms of that audit, I think you really need to be comparing like what you have across all of the different touch points. So, your foundation of the brand stuff, documentation, website and everything. Compare that with actual market leaders. So like the biggest players, and I don't mean locally, but like nationally or globally in the space, like what do they have that you don't? And obviously, as a sole trader who's maybe just started up, you're not going to have a £50,000 website that can compete, with some of the biggest players in the UK, for instance. But it will at least give you like a starting point and a bit of perspective of kind of where you're at right now. Alternatively, and as well, contrast with like local competition. So what are your local competitors? What do they look like? What do their, if you can get hold of any of their proposals? And to be honest, stuff like getting hold of proposals and invoices and quotes and stuff like that is probably easier than you think. You just need somebody who's been invoiced by them. Ask what does it look like? What was that experience look like? Did you have onboarding documentation? What did that look like? Those kind of touch points. And then I think you just need to get a reality check on it. And again, this is quite hard, especially as like, businesses that are coming out of startup land is, your documentation might be lacking, but because you've looked at it so long and you kind of like it, you might not realize other people don't, or vice versa. So I think ask neutral third-party people to give you a bit of an overview as well, because, no one likes calling your baby ugly, but, if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. In terms of like specifically then what to audit, so like website first and foremost, I think AI is taking over a lot of search discoverability and general things, but websites still at the moment have a big role to play. Like we've said, documentation, invoices, proposals, quotes, any kind of service information that you might send out depending on your business, general imagery, social media channels, what do they look like? What's the content going out like? What are the photos on there? The graphics, if there are any videos, what are they looking like? And then brand assets. And to give you this is a really just small example of the kind of improvements that you can make within a small business. So I went away recently. Just before I went away, somebody I know who sells finance from Lincoln asked me if we could work with him. We typically don't work with small, not that he's really small, but like I said, our target market is more established businesses. He sent me this flyer. So this was his existing flyer. And again, I'm not here to rip it apart, but it's not a fantastic flyer. But if you can step it up to something like, so we created this for him, because it was kind of like, this basically just said, look, we do everything, plonk the logo down there, like literally drop a load of assets on. So we created this for him, like a 2-page flyer that really simplifies what they do, and also created a kind of banner for them as well. Again, this isn't the best creative work in the world, right? And it couldn't be for the budget that he had and the speed that we needed to deliver it at. But the point is, if you send it to anybody who works in our industry, if your materials are looking a lot more like this than they are like this, reach out and just ask for support and get some quotes. If you need people to ask for quotes, obviously just drop me a line. I'll leave my contact details on the final slide, but I can help point you in the right direction, but the stuff does make a meaningful impact. Okay. So then raising your prices, how do you kind of go about it? What's the what, the why, and the how of this? Because people, especially in this economy, businesses at the moment aren't doing great across the board, right? So you kind of feel either guilty for putting your prices up, or you feel like if you do put your prices up, nobody's going to buy it, or sales will be harder. And I think that's a really, really natural point. It's like, if people aren't selling the house, they put the price down, right? But ideally, you wanted to put a bit more money on the starting price of the house so that you could negotiate that wiggle room and sell it for kind of what you want. And again, it's still a little bit of that in business, right? So, why should you do it? And I think that the main reason of why I think you should put your prices up is because, like, in general, it's way easier to sell expensive things than it is cheap things. And I know that seems a bit counterintuitive because, yeah, obviously a client has to have a budget for it, obviously. But the brutal reality of, like, who we all are as people is, like, we don't want cheap stuff. And you might go, oh, I do. I want a bargain. No, you want something that was expensive at a good price, right? And that's what you mean by, if you think that is you, it isn't. You don't want cheap stuff. You want good stuff for less money, right? Nobody trusts cheap things. Like, if, you know, let's say you were, I don't know, buying a second-hand car and that car was like £300, you'd think, okay, well, the wheels are going to fall off and it's going to kill me. So nobody trusts cheap things. And nobody values cheap things as well. Like, if you bought an expensive coat or jacket, you want to keep that, like, for as long as you can. If that gets a rip in it, you're going to try and fix it or send it somewhere. If you rip a cheap coat, it's going in the bin because it was only 20 quid anyway. We'll just get another one. So I think the point of this is, because people value expensive stuff more, they will be, being brutal, like, less of a pain in the arse as customers. They will expect, like, that they will value the thing, they're buying into it because they, like, trust in it and believe in it and they know that it'll help them and they really want it. And it is far easier to have those conversations when the price is higher than whatever it is now. There's obviously a limit to that, like we kind of alluded to earlier, but in general, as a starting point, try nudging them up and see what happens. But then the secondary kind of considerations from that, because if you just say, okay, you know, even for your existing customers, prices have just gone up 50%, sorry about that, like, it's not really going to work. So consider, like, for loyal or legacy customers, maybe like freezing the price that they're at potentially, because if you start bleeding customers, obviously that's not an ideal place to be either. Whether your target audience needs to change to accommodate this pricing, and I think this is where, speaking to somebody like Emma from the previous session, or, you know, there is some planning in the session after this one about, you know, kind of personal brand and values and the customers that you want to grab, but really defining who these customers are and, you know, can they afford what you're wanting to charge. And again, speaking to people like Emma for customer avatars, or considering niching, or just kind of defining specific audiences that your thing is really good for, again, at those prices, will really help you. But yeah, you don't want to just hike your prices up without considering, you know, what other pushback, especially from existing customers or, you know, existing markets, would there be. The kind of roadmap for you then to do it. So audit brand touch points, everything that you've created, website, documentation, everything, audit everything and refresh anything that needs refreshing, whether you can do that yourself or whether you need external help. You know, time and money obviously fall into that. Make your offer clear and compelling, so make it really easy to understand what it is you're selling for this new higher price. Make sure that you know your target market and why they're actually wanting to buy it, and then just basically do it. You will find, I think, sales easier regardless of what you're selling if you nudge your prices up. And again, like where we started at the start of this, nobody here wants to sell the thing that we're doing for less money, so let's try and sell it for a little more.